Picture your neighborhood for a second. Just, visualize the street you live on, or maybe the street you grew up on.
Right. Everyone has that one specific mental image.
Exactly. And you probably have that one neighbor in mind, too. The guy in the faded denim jeans, always out there on a Saturday morning mowing his own lawn, parking vented, maybe 10-year-old sedan in the driveway.
Yeah, just minding his own business.
Right. So hold that image. Now contrast it with the other guy, maybe 3 doors down, the one who pulls out every weekday morning in a brand new luxury Porsche SUV.
Oh, absolutely. Wearing a perfectly tailored suit.
Yeah, looking like he literally just stepped off the cover of a GQ magazine.
Ah.
Well, today we are doing a deep dive into some really eye-opening source material that completely shatters how we're taught to view these two people.
It's a massive reality check.
It really is. Because the guy in the faded jeans, he might actually be a multimillionaire. And the guy in the Porsche, he is likely drowning in lifestyle debt, sweating bullets over his next credit card payment, and just terrified of losing his corporate job.
Which is wild, right? It completely upends our baseline assumptions about success.
Exactly. So our mission today is to dismantle this grand illusion of the high-spending consumer and really reveal the exact framework of quiet, sustainable financial freedom that the sources lay out.
Because we are deeply conditioned, almost from birth, to trust the visual evidence of wealth. We look at the leather seats, the manicured lawn, the designer logos, and our brain just automatically categorizes that person as financially victorious.
Oh, for sure. We just assume they've made it.
Right. But the visual evidence we rely on is frequently the exact mechanism that is bankrupting those same people. It's a toolkit for navigating the pressures of keeping up appearances, really.
So if wealth isn't actually what we see, if it's not the Porsche and the bespoke suit, why are we so susceptible to this performance? Why do highly educated, high-earning people fall into the trap of believing that success requires a custom house or, a closet full of luxury brands and vehicles that cost what some folks make in an entire decade?
Well, because we're dealing with behavioral economics here, not just straightforward math. Society is totally fixated on the consumption of capital rather than the accumulation of capital.
Because you can't see an investment portfolio.
Exactly. You cannot physically see a diversified index fund or a paid-off mortgage. Those things are completely invisible. What you can see is consumption.
Right. The stuff you buy.
Yeah. And because consumption is visible, it just becomes the default metric for social hierarchy. So we end up with this demographic that the source material accurately describes as the fake wealthy.
The fake wealthy. I love that term.
It's so descriptive. These are individuals often making really strong six-figure incomes, mind you, who are just trapped in a high-maintenance, deeply exhausting lifestyle just to project an aura of prosperity.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to push back a little on this idea that it's all just shallow vanity. Say you get a major promotion at work.
Right, a big milestone.
Yeah. You land a huge year-end bonus after pulling 60-hour weeks for a year straight. Isn't it just basic human nature to want to reward yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
You put in the grueling hours, so you upgrade your car to something more comfortable. You book that luxury vacation because you are genuinely physically exhausted. Isn't it a bit cynical to label all of that as fake wealthy?
That is a really crucial distinction to make. I'm glad you brought it up. Because there is absolutely nothing wrong with utility or genuine comfort.
Right. Nobody's saying you have to sleep on the floor.
Exactly. The trap of the fake wealthy is not about the vacation itself. It is about the underlying motivation and the financial structure supporting it.
The why behind the purchase.
Yes. The behavioral data in our sources indicates a clear pattern where these upgrades are executed specifically for public consumption. It's the vacation booked primarily because of how it will look on an Instagram feed.
Oh, yeah. The curated photo dump.
Right. Or it's the car financed at an exorbitant interest rate because of what the badge on the hood communicates to the valet or the neighbor. What's fascinating here is that the core issue is that a high salary does not equal a high net worth.
That's a huge point.
A high salary merely provides high cash flow.
Right. Cash flow is just the speed at which money moves through your hands. It's an original analogy I was thinking about earlier. It's like being on a treadmill that someone cranked up to an absolute sprint.
Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Your legs are burning, you are working harder, the stakes are way higher, but financially speaking, you are staying in the exact same place.
Precisely. Because if 100% of that high cash flow goes towards servicing a massive mortgage, luxury car leases, and premium consumer goods, your actual net worth what you objectively own is basically zero.
You're just passing the money along.
Yeah, you essentially function as a highly paid middleman.
Hmm.
You are taking capital from your employer's bank account and transferring it directly into the bank accounts of luxury conglomerates, keeping almost nothing for yourself.
Which brings us to a specific concept from the source material that really clicked for me, the status tax.
Yes, the status tax is so real.
Every single time you open social media, you're hit with this engineered peer pressure. You see your college friends posting their new gadgets, their perfectly plated Michelin-starred dinners, their seemingly flawless lives.
And that digital environment, it's not an accident at all. The algorithms powering those platforms are heavily optimized for mimetic desire.
Mimetic desire, meaning we want what other people have.
Exactly. They are designed to show you peers who are just slightly ahead of you in the social hierarchy, which triggers our really deep evolutionary fear of being left behind.
So to soothe that anxiety, people pay the status tax.
Yeah, it's the premium you pay out of your own pocket purely to prove to the algorithm and to your extended network that you are thriving.
But the status tax isn't a one-time fee, right? It's like a recurring subscription to relevance. And this psychological trap has a very real, unforgiving mathematical
A
cost.
devastating cost, honestly.
So let's pivot and look at the exact numbers behind this, because this is where the illusion really starts to fall apart. Take the luxury SUV example from the text.
Let's run the actual math on that scenario, yeah.
You walk into a dealership, the showroom is pristine, the car smells amazing, and you finance a brand new high-end SUV.
Right out of the gate, you finance that vehicle, and you are looking at a monthly payment well over $1,000. Probably more.
Just for the loan.
Just the principal and interest. That's just the baseline. A luxury vehicle requires premium insurance coverage. The parts are specialized, so the routine maintenance is significantly more expensive.
And the gas. You can't just put regular unleaded in it?
No, you are required to put premium fuel in the tank.
So that $1,000 payment is really, what, $1,400 or $1,500 a month when you factor in the entire ecosystem required to keep the car running?
Easily. Over a standard 5-year loan term, you have directed nearly $90,000 in cash flow toward a single physical object.
$90,000.
Yeah. And what is the mechanical reality of that object? The absolute second its tires touch public asphalt, it loses 10 to 20% of its value.
It just vanishes into thin air.
It is an asset that is guaranteed by the literal laws of physics and economics to depreciate aggressively every single day you own it.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting. Here is an analogy that I think visualizes this perfectly for anyone listening. Buying that luxury SUV purely for the status is essentially like buying a giant $60,000 block of ice.
A block of ice.
Yeah. You buy this block of ice, you put it in your driveway in the middle of summer, and you just watch it melt.
Oh, wow. That's a brutal image.
Right. Every single day, the puddle gets bigger and the block gets smaller. You are watching your capital physically evaporate.
That captures the depreciation aspect perfectly. It is evaporating capital.
Yeah.
Now, contrast that melting block of ice with the alternative stealth wealth.
The quiet approach.
Right. Imagine taking that exact same monthly capital, that $1,400, and quietly, automatically diverting it into a simple, boring S&P 500 index fund.
But hold on, let me stop you right there. Because I hear S&P 500 and I immediately think of market crashes.
Sure, that's a common reaction.
The stock market is volatile. It goes up and down. At least with the SUV, I can sit in it. I have a tangible physical asset sitting in my driveway. So how is throwing money into an invisible, fluctuating stock market mathematically safer than owning a physical object?
It is a totally fair question, and it really comes down to understanding what an index fund actually is versus what a car is. A car is a decaying machine.
Right. Parts break, things wear out.
Exactly. An S&P 500 index fund, on the other hand, is essentially a basket of the 500 largest, most profitable companies in the United States.
Real businesses.
Yes. When you put that $1,400 into the fund, you are buying micro shares of actual businesses that are generating real profits, they're innovating, and they're paying dividends. Yes, the market fluctuates month to month, but zoom out over a 5, 10, or 20-year timeline.
Because over time, you aren't just saving money, you are utilizing compound growth.
Exactly. And the mechanism of compounding is what makes this so incredibly powerful. Your initial investment generates a return. Then that return generates its own return.
It snowballs.
If you automate this, if the money flows from your paycheck directly to your brokerage account before you even see it, you create a silent financial snowball in the dark.
I love that.
To use your earlier metaphor, instead of a melting block of ice, you are planting an orchard in your backyard.
An orchard nobody else can see?
Right, the neighbors can't see it because it's behind a tall fence. But year after year, those trees grow. They produce fruit. You reinvest that fruit to plant even more trees.
And eventually, that hidden orchard produces enough to feed you for a lifetime without you having to lift a finger.
But here is the friction point. Visible vanity actively cannibalizes that compounding process.
How so?
Every dollar you spend on the melting block of ice is a seed you deliberately chose not to plant in your orchard. You are trading your future freedom and autonomy for a temporary hit of dopamine today.
That is the core trade-off, isn't it? You get the dopamine hit, you get the likes on the photo, you get the appreciative nod from the guy at the stoplight, and then the feeling fades.
It always fades.
And you are just left with a massive bill and a depreciating asset. But, if the math is so overwhelmingly in favor of quiet investing, it begs a really crucial question.
What's that?
Why do the smartest, wealthiest people actively pretend to be middle class? Because, according to our sources, the faded jeans and the 10-year-old sedan aren't just about being frugal or saving pennies. It is a highly calculated strategy for protection.
Yeah, this is a phenomenon the text calls the middle-class masquerade.
Middle-class masquerade.
The truly wealthy, the individuals who have really mastered this quiet, sustainable financial freedom, they intentionally live in unassuming neighborhoods. They drive reliable, anonymous, older cars.
They aren't constantly upgrading.
No, they use their smartphones until the batteries literally will not hold a charge anymore. They wear high-quality clothing, sure, but it is completely devoid of branding or logos.
It functions as financial camouflage.
It is entirely about camouflage. Consider the liabilities of visible wealth. When you broadcast that you have excess capital by driving a flashy car or living in a sprawling, ostentatious house, you attract a very specific set of problems.
Like people asking for money.
Exactly. You attract unrealistic financial expectations from your entire social circle. You become the default person expected to pick up the tab at expensive dinners.
Oh, that would get old fast.
It does. You attract jealousy and resentment from peers. You even attract a much higher likelihood of litigation. Visible wealth generates this constant, humming undercurrent of social friction and stress.
So by wearing the mask of mediocrity, by blending in, they protect their peace. They guard their privacy.
They protect their most valuable asset, which is their cognitive bandwidth and their freedom to navigate the world without a target on their back.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? Let's bring this out of theory and look at the immediate environment we are operating in today.
Because the context matters immensely.
It really does. We have to be brutally honest about the context of the year 2026. We are currently sitting in a period of extreme economic volatility. Artificial intelligence isn't just a buzzword anymore. It is actively restructuring the labor market as we speak.
We are seeing cognitive tasks, data analysis, and mid-level managerial roles being automated away.
The very jobs that traditionally pay those high six-figure salaries, they're becoming obsolete almost overnight.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the economic landscape right now is incredibly fragile. The historical concept of a secure corporate career is rapidly dissolving.
Nobody is safe just because they have a fancy title.
Right. And in this specific environment, the discipline of stealth wealth is no longer just some clever life hack for early retirement. It is mandatory economic survival gear.
Let's break down exactly how that works. Why does having this quiet wealth actually protect you against an AI-driven job market?
Well, let's look at the mechanics of job loss through two contrasting scenarios from the sources.
Okay, let's hear them.
Imagine a mid-level director whose role is suddenly automated. In scenario A, we have the fake wealthy individual. They lose their $150,000 salary, but their lifestyle demands a constant burn rate of $140,000 a year just to stay afloat.
Because they have the premium car leases, a ballooning mortgage on a McMansion.
And maxed out credit cards from keeping up appearances, yeah.
Yeah.
When the income stops, the debt obligations do not stop.
So it's a crisis immediately.
That scenario isn't a bump in the road. It is an absolute catastrophic emergency that forces them into pure desperation.
They have zero leverage. I mean, they have to take the very next job they find, even if it pays half as much and demands twice the hours, just to keep the repo man away.
Now, apply the exact same job loss to scenario B, the individual practicing quiet wealth. They lose that exact same $150,000 salary.
But their setup is different.
Very different. They carry zero consumer debt. Their mortgage is incredibly modest because they bought well below their means. Their monthly overhead is minimal.
And they have the orchard.
Exactly. More importantly, they have a substantial hidden portfolio of liquid investments that they've been compounding in the dark for a decade.
So for them, losing their job is basically a Tuesday. It's a logistical annoyance.
That's all it is.
They can take a deep breath, spend 6 months upskilling or pivoting to a new industry, and not miss a single night of sleep. I mean, the faded jeans and the old sedan are literal economic armor.
And that highlights the broader strategic advantage here. When you finally stop caring about the societal performance, when you no longer need the guy in the Porsche to think you are successful, you gain an asymmetrical edge.
You remain underestimated by society.
And being underestimated is a profound financial superpower.
I really want everyone listening to think about that phrase, being underestimated is a superpower.
It really is.
If people assume you are just an average earner getting by, nobody is asking you for loans, nobody is aggressively trying to sell you things you don't need, you get to maneuver through life with complete optionality.
Because real wealth isn't the ability to buy expensive things. Real wealth is the absolute freedom of options.
Having choices.
Yes, it's not about proving your worth to a room full of strangers. It is about knowing your worth silently, supported by a balance sheet that guarantees your independence.
So how do we operationalize this? If you are listening to this right now and realizing, hey, I've been running on the treadmill, I've been paying the status tax, how do you actually start building the hidden orchard?
We need to distill this into an immediate, actionable shift.
Right. What's the quiet wealth framework?
Well, the transition from fake wealth to quiet wealth does not require a degree in advanced finance.
Thank goodness.
The math, as we discussed, is surprisingly simple. You lower your fixed costs, automate your investments into broad index funds, and you wait.
So what's the hard part?
The real challenge is entirely psychological. It requires serious mental courage to confront your own behavioral patterns.
And the very first step, something you can do the minute this deep dive ends, is to conduct a ruthless audit of your current spending.
A really honest audit.
You need to pull up your recent bank and credit card statements and actively identify what we can call ego-driven leaks in your cash flow.
This is where the mental courage is severely tested. You have to look at every single line item, every recurring subscription, every recent major purchase, and run it through a very specific, brutally honest filter.
You literally have to ask yourself, did I buy this item or sign up for this service for my own genuine comfort and utility? Or did I buy this so someone else would notice?
That is the ultimate dividing line. That single question separates the fragile, fake wealthy from the resilient, quietly wealthy.
It's a tough mirror to look into.
It is. If you look at that premium car pigment or that luxury branded winter coat or the tab from that trendy restaurant and you realize you only bought it for the audience, you have to cut it.
You have to plug that ego-driven leak immediately.
And redirect that capital into your hidden orchard. Let it compound.
Because at the end of the day, your net worth is a deeply personal scoreboard. It is not a public performance piece.
No one else needs to see it.
You do not need the applause of the algorithm. What you need, especially in a volatile world like we have today, is unshakable peace of mind.
True financial power isn't about the luxury goods you can display to the public. It is about what you no longer have to prove to anybody.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It is the profound psychological relief of waking up on a random Tuesday morning and knowing that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, because your capital is working aggressively and silently in the background to sustain you.
That is a complete paradigm shift in how you view every single dollar that enters your life. You stop using money as a tool to buy physical things, and you start using money as a tool to buy back your time.
You are purchasing your own autonomy.
Exactly. You're buying freedom.
Money should never be a prop for an audience. It is the raw material for your freedom.
Which leaves us with one final, lingering thought for you to mull over today as you go about your routine.
A carding question, essentially.
Yeah. If we accept the premise that the ultimate luxury is actually invisibility, the absolute bulletproof freedom from needing anyone else's validation, then we have to look really closely at our daily choices.
We have to audit our impulses.
The next time you're standing in a retail store or hovering your thumb over the Buy Now button on your phone, and you feel that familiar creeping urge to upgrade your life just for an audience, I want you to picture that neighbor in the faded jeans, the one holding the secret fortune and the total peace of mind.
The guy with the hidden orchard.
Exactly. And then ask yourself one single question. If I were the last person on Earth and there was absolutely no one around to see me, would I still want to buy this?